Hi there, my name is Valerie Dayrit. I'm a sacred poet, channeler, and an author. Welcome to my dimensions of storytelling. Hello, beautiful consciousness. Today, I am inspired to read to you from my book called Fragile Blue. How do you touch the world with your hands? Is it with an ease caress? Or mindlessly scratching the surface, ferociously without a thought, leaving bruises behind? Do you let your soul be nourished in the love of the sun, washing away those shadows that stays hidden underneath the cracks? Once you heal yourself, a part of the world heals as well. When you are truly embracing yourself, you are embracing the world with it. As you wrap your arms around your heart, your arms are too wrapped around the world. The title of this passage is called Touch. Thank you. Alright, I hope you enjoyed that passage. It is from my book called Fragile Blue, and the title of that passage is called Touch. And what that passage is about, how do we touch the world? Do we love the world as is in a way where we understand it or what the world is? Or are we unconscious about what the world is? And part of how we can understand what the world is as is understanding the world that exists within the self, understanding what lives within the layers of all of what history has done to the psyche, the compacted informations that one has gathered. And to understand the world, you must first understand this world that lives in you, because this world that lives in you is actually an accumulation of what has happened overall, pretty much in history and in the present moment. Because the body in itself not only deals with what has transpired in the past as what history carries, but also everything that's happening right now. And if you're paying attention, the past is repeating itself in the present moment. Because part of that is that humanity hasn't really evolved far enough to understand that in order for humanity to grow is for one to understand the self. And because everything originates from the self, if we want to move forward with a better future, you must understand the structures of what lives within you. And so touch is actually a very important passage because it deals with how are we holding the world? How are you holding the world that lives within you? Because that's a reflection of how you are holding the outside world. And so this is a mirror dynamic, this passage. It talks about, are you loving parts of yourself that you're unconscious of? Are you paying attention to those parts of yourself? Are you doing enough to really be attentive to what structures that lives within you, because that's an automatic reflection of what structures that lives outside of you. And so if you come from a space of brokenness, it's hard to see the outside world not in a broken way, because that is what you're seeing the world through. That is what you are feeling, what the world is in that state. And so one must start to heal themselves. One must start to deconstruct what is not true to who they are, and to understand how did those structures get in there to begin with. And if you look deep enough, it's history. Those parts that lives in you are parts that lived in your ancestors' lineage, and they're still in there. The trauma that they have experienced prior are in there with you. You're carrying all of that. So it becomes your own self-responsibility to really look into what exists within you, the worlds that exist within you. And through that process, once you start healing yourself, you can start also working on reaching out your hands to the world and healing those parts of the world that is broken as well. And so my book is dealing with a lot of, in my 24 books, I write about liberation, freedom, equality, human rights, not just about poetry and love. There are so many layers in there that really captures the history of humanity and how humanity has become in such a web of prisoner because of what we have done to ourselves in history, what our ancestors had played in history, and all of that is now playing to where we are at today. And so that is what I write about in my 24 books. It's not just about philosophies or stories. It's about understanding yourself and diving deep into those layers of yourself that one is so afraid to crack open, to taste, to understand what lives in there, what lives in the shadow, you know. And shadows hold such important part of the self that is so untapped, so misunderstood, because we are so afraid of what really lives in our own shadows. And in reality, what really lives in our shadows are parts of broken pieces of history that are just waiting to be heard, to be understood, and to be healed. And so you can find my books on Amazon. And I know that there's quite a few books to choose from, but choose the book that calls on to you. And it's full of beautiful stories, ways to enlighten the self, ways to connect with the self. And you can purchase them online and enjoy choosing a book and enjoy reading them. Thank you.